Governments all over the world classify information for one reason. They believe the public is not ready to see it. Sometimes that information stays locked away forever, but sometimes, years or decades later, it gets released quietly through declassification requests, leaked archives, or accidental disclosures. What makes these reports unsettling is not that they exist, it's that once they are made public, no one can fully explain them. These are official government documents, intelligence assessments, military logs, and internal memos that were never meant to be read by the public, and even now, with everything we know, they still do not make sense. In the late 70s and early 80s, the CIA funded a classified program designed to test psychic abilities for intelligence gathering. The program was real. It was called Project Stargate, and thousands of pages of documents were later declassified. One session in particular has never been explained. In 1984, a remote viewer, identified only by a number, was given sealed coordinates and instructed to describe what they perceived. According to the transcript, the viewer began describing massive structures, towering humanoid figures, and what they believed to be a dying civilization. A session supervisor then revealed the target: Mars, approximately 1 million years in the past. The transcript shows the viewer describing thin atmospheric conditions, shelters built into terrain, beings that appeared non-human but intelligent. The CIA didn't label the session as fantasy or error. It was archived the same way as other operational sessions. No explanation was ever added. When the files were declassified in 2017, the agency acknowledged the program was real, the sessions were conducted as written, and the documents were authentic. They never explained why the session existed in the first place. This one is uncomfortable because it was never supposed to be public. Between 2004 and 2015, US Navy pilots operating off the Pacific coast repeatedly encountered objects that didn't match any known aircraft. These encounters were documented in radar logs, pilot reports, infrared footage, and internal Navy briefings. And when these reports first leaked, the Pentagon refused to comment. Then they confirmed them. The objects were observed accelerating from 80,000 feet to sea level in seconds. They hovered without visible propulsion. They traveled at hypersonic speeds without sonic booms. They appeared to drop into the ocean without slowing. The most disturbing part is that these encounters were happening near military training zones, sometimes daily for years. When the Pentagon declassified portions of the reports, they confirmed the footage was authentic and the objects were officially labeled as unidentified aerial phenomena. They did not identify what they were. They also didn't deny that they were under intelligent control. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union developed a classified nuclear failsafe known internally as Perimeter. In the West, it became known as the Dead Hand System. If Soviet leadership was wiped out in a nuclear strike, this system was designed to detect radiation spikes, seismic activity, communication blackouts, and atmospheric pressure changes. If those conditions were met, it would automatically authorize and launch a full nuclear retaliation. No human approval required. The terrifying part is that once activated, the system couldn't be shut down easily. It relied on sensors and pre-programmed logic rather than command structures. When details were declassified after the collapse of the Soviet Union, officials admitted the system had been operational for years. What remains unexplained is how close it came to triggering. Several Cold War incidents suggest false sensor readings nearly activated it, but full logs have never been released. This one sounds like satire until you read the document. In 1975, during a US Senate investigation into intelligence misuses, the CIA was forced to disclose several covert assassination tools. Among them was a weapon referred to internally as the heart attack gun. According to testimony, the weapon fired a frozen dart made of shellfish toxin. When it entered the bloodstream, it would dissolve almost instantly, leaving no trace. The toxin caused cardiac arrest while mimicking a natural heart attack. Autopsies would show no foreign object, no poison, no signs of trauma. The CIA admitted the weapon existed. They demonstrated its mechanics. They confirmed it had been tested. What they never clarified is whether it was ever used. The answer to that question remains classified. In December 1980, US Air Force personnel stationed in the United Kingdom reported strange lights descending into Rendlesham Forest near RAF Bentwaters. At the time, the incident was dismissed publicly, but years later a memorandum surfaced written by Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, the deputy base commander. The memo described a glowing object maneuvering through trees, emitting beams of light, and later splitting into multiple airborne objects. Radiation readings were taken at the landing site and recorded above background levels. The memo was declassified. The military never disputed its authenticity, they just stated no threat was identified. The question of what the object was never been answered. This is one of the most disturbing documents ever released. In 1962, the U.S. Department of Defense drafted a classified proposal called Operation Northwoods. The plan outlined a series of false flag operations designed to justify military action against Cuba. These included staging attacks in American cities, sinking refugee boats, hijacking aircraft, blaming the incidents on Cuban forces. The document was signed by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. President Kennedy rejected the plan. The report was classified for decades. It was declassified in the 90s. Officials confirmed it was real and accurately represented proposed actions. No explanation has ever been given for how close it came to being approved. For years, the UK Ministry of Defense denied investigating UFOs seriously. Then they released their files. Over 150,000 pages of reports were declassified between 2008 and 2013. Among them were internal assessments acknowledging objects that displayed acceleration, maneuverability, and stealth capabilities beyond known technology. One internal memo, analysts admitted that some sightings could not be attributed to aircraft, atmospheric phenomena, or sensor errors. Despite this, the public conclusion was that UFOs posed no threat and were not worth further study. Contradiction was never explained. This case appears in a little-known CIA document compiled during the Cold War, based on reports allegedly originating from Soviet intelligence sources. The document describes an incident in a remote region of Siberia during the 50s. According to the report, villagers observed a low-flying object hovering over the area. The object was described as disc-shaped or spherical, although details varied between accounts. Soviet soldiers were reportedly dispatched to investigate. The document claims that when the soldiers fired at the object, it emitted a sudden and intense flash of light. Afterward, the report states that the soldiers were found turned into a stone-like substance. The language used suggests petrification rather than burning or physical trauma, though no scientific explanation was given. Importantly, the CIA did not verify the account, but they also didn't dismiss it outright. The document was archived without being marked as hoax, fabrication, or disinformation. It remained classified for decades. It was only released in the 90s as part of a larger document dump. Why an unverified and extreme report was preserved in official intelligence files at all never been explained. Throughout the Cold War, governments tracked nuclear weapons and radioactive materials with extreme precision. Despite that, numerous classified reports were filed regarding missing or unaccounted nuclear material. Some involved transportation accidents, lost shipments, or aircraft crashes. Others were far more difficult to explain. When portions of these reports were eventually declassified, it became clear that not every incident was resolved. In several cases, nuclear material was listed as missing with no confirmed recovery. In other reports, radiation spikes were detected in locations where no weapons were known to be deployed, tested, or stored. Some files ended with vague language stating that investigations were inconclusive or ongoing. Others stopped abruptly with no conclusion at all. Governments involved declined to comment when asked about the gaps, and to this day there is no complete public accounting of every reported loss or unexplained radiation event, leaving unanswered questions about what exactly went missing and where it may have gone. In 1971, Australian defense and intelligence officials compiled a classified report detailing joint operations with the United States. The document focused on aerial surveillance programs and encounters with unidentified objects. It referenced tracking systems, intelligence sharing agreements, and highly restricted projects were not meant to be publicly acknowledged. Most striking were references to recoveries and specialized access programs, terms typically associated with compartmentalized intelligence operations. The report suggested that Australia was aware of and involved in sensitive activities far beyond simple observation or reporting. And decades later, the document was accidentally declassified and archived publicly. Once its contents were noticed, officials attempted to reclassify it, citing national security concerns, but by that point, the file had already been cataloged and preserved in public records. No official clarification or correction has ever been issued. No explanation was provided for the references contained. The document remains a Available, unanswered, and unexplained. All that said, that's been the video for today. I'll catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next one.